Nick. Here's what I want. Here's what I want from you. Here's your gift to me since it's been 100 years since we've done this. I want you to like put in an all-star performance on not typing while you're talking. That'll be my new. Like I'll mail you a medal. I expect that medal. Your valor.
I expect that medal in the mail. Okay? I need it.
All right, Nick, we're going to start a mother daggum podcast for the first time in 100 billion years.
This is a brand new year that we started a brand new podcast.
Stranger tides and whatnot. Nick, here's where I'm going to start this off. Our tea is bad. My tea is bad.
Your tea? Why is your tea bad?
Our tea is bad. I don't know why it's bad. Do you know why it's bad?
I assume you mean your tea, right? Like the tea that you like, the drink, right? The beverage.
My wife has been a part of now an international company, and they found out that we buy our tea off of Amazon, and we're no longer allowed to talk about tea until we fix that. I don't know, man. I just want to let you know that my tea's bad.
Jen understands tea and coffee, and I just drink coffee as she gives it to me, or black, or whatever, or as like with the minimal ways that she helps me prepare it or tells me to prepare it, has taught me to prepare it. There's the words. There's the words.
Got it.
And same thing with tea. I'm like the most basic tea of all time. So
hey. Dude, I just said, like, can you please not type while you're talking, and then you're over here just dropping F-bombs, so now I have to edit those out. Like, Nick, we talked about how many things I have going, and I really don't want to have to spend an extra 20 seconds to fix your bad mouth. Language, Nick. Language. Welcome to the year we started a podcast. It's a podcast born Phoenix-like from the ashes and absolutely like just blown and strewn debris of the podcast that used to be the year we started a podcast. I am your co-host on Stranger Tides, something, Jeff. That's fine.
I'm your other co-host, Nick.
And this is a podcast. We come together once a week, once every other week, once a month, once every quarter. Sometimes, at least.
This is your quarterly report.
This is your quarterly report about some things that we find interesting.
No, it's just about podcasts, actually.
It's just about podcasts. And though it's not, though. So
I don't know why I said that. Yeah,
I don't know why you said that. Okay, so Nick, I feel obligated to like address the fact that it has been by my calendar more than 14 days since we've
been 47
recorded one
years.
of these. It's also been approximately 47 years since the recent episode. And I just would like, we're not going to get too far into the details. I just would like to apologize. It's been crazy. I've had school, I've had work. Nick seems to think that he has things too, but I didn't really care about any of his problems because my own things were too much. And so
I was available. Most of the time I was available.
Yeah, Nick, sometimes Nick is challenging to find a time with. That has not been the case for the last 2-3 months or whatever it's been.
What I would say is I would have been, like how when you know how when some you roll out the guy at the end of the bench who's just there because he's a locker room presence and he's just like a husk of his former self, and you're like, Udonis Haslem's my guy right now. It's like, there he goes. Remember 13 years ago when he was serviceable, and now it's just like he's the old crotchety man that we just keep around because he makes the young guys feel like they're connected to history.
Yeah, that's definitely
we can all draw. Is what I would have been. I would have been like
this metaphor.
But my point, I would have been that guy. I would have just been like, yes, I am here. I functionally. Good one, Jeff. I would have said nothing. I would have had no energy.
Check the box of being here. Nick Ager. I did it.
Exactly.
Well, lucky for you, Nick, I couldn't even pretend to check any boxes because time is limited, and so is the amount of podcasts we can release when those things are true. So, but I for one, am extremely excited to hang out and talk about things, do a podcast, because the amount of time I've had for just self-indulgence, such self-indulgence as talking to a friend, has been on hiatus, just like this podcast was unofficially on. So excited to do that. But I just want to acknowledge the fact, it's been a hot minute, and we're going to do it again.
Such self-indulgence as checking my notes here. Having a conversation for 1 hour every other week with a friend.
Yeah, right. Such self-indulgence. I mean,
you're really living that like what's the word? Hedonistic lifestyle there, my friend.
Oh,
like
man.
you've gone
Yeah.
over the top.
It's honestly shameful. But you know, we're all working through things, and this is the thing that I'm working through. Let's see, Nick. I forgot how to do podcasts. Let's
You figure it out.
Okay, so I don't know. I guess one thing that we used to do on this podcast back in the day is I talk about how I hurt myself. Nick, guess how
Tell me you've been hurting yourself. I'm gonna be gone.
I'm gonna do the best part of this podcast that I definitely know has always been successful and not just completely pointless use of time. Where I'm going to ask you to guess how I've hurt myself, literally today.
Right. So there you were
in a new way,
in an arm wrestling
first time
in an arm wrestling contest with the strongest man in the world. Right?
Whoa.
I don't know who that is. Right?
Whoa.
And there you were,
Whoa.
right? About to take him on. You'd been practicing your form. You'd been lifting. You'd been doing curls. I think curls were probably is it by I don't know who could say. I don't know what part of the arm is activated when you're doing irrelevant when you're doing arm wrestling concepts. Nobody knows. Okay, but you were with the strongest man in the world. And he, as a silly prank, right? He didn't give you any resistance. So you just slammed your arm too hard into the ground, and that is into the table, and that is how you got hurt. That is my guess.
Okay.
For
Well,
how you got
Nick,
hurt.
first off, how can I arm wrestle myself? I mean, that's just ridiculous.
God damn.
Sorry, I laughed at my own joke. I had to take a minute.
You're such a dork. I love it.
Oh, that's
You're
such a good.
friggin-
Oh man, that's such a
really
dad.
good.
That's the most.
That's the most dad
thing
joke
I've
you've
said.
ever freaking said.
Oh man,
my
why
God.
did we wait so long to get this back rolling? Okay,
I don't know. Who can
no.
say?
So I woke up. Okay, actually, let me back up. I have a lot of things that are plugged into a lot of outlets, and so I went and I looked up like there's got to be some thing that I can have more than 2 outlets to an outlet. I know you can have like the
I know what you're
strip,
talking
the
about.
power strip
This
or
power
whatever.
strip. There you
yeah,
go.
yeah. Anyways,
You did it.
But like I didn't want to just have those like strewn about. So there's a couple spots, and I bought a thing on Amazon, and I give that a 10 out of 10 review for first off how easy it was to install, and second off how useful it is.
What about a 10 out of 10 on how much it can hurt you?
Well, so that didn't hurt me at all. But
That's good.
I did all that. That was fine. No big deal. Basically, all you do is just unscrew the plate off of the power or the outlet, and then you put this new plate, quote unquote, that plugs into the outlets itself. But then you screw it in so it's nice and tight, and then you can have more things plugged in. Especially if it's like low power situations and you want to keep things nice and neat. It also has like 4 USB outlets things that were just it was perfect for what I needed it for. Anyways, long way to say, that got me like on this weird. I get on these like little trips. This is a beautiful thing about owning your own house is you can do weird customizations that are just perfect for you and nobody else would care about. But there was an outlet that was in our closet, like in our master bedroom, the master closet. That for whatever reason the original owner had switched it over to be like the start of a switch for like a smart home something from like probably 2006 and like. But it had no outlet. It was literally just like a GFCI blank. Like you couldn't do anything with it. And I'm like, what the frick is this? So anyways, I looked it up and I'm like, oh yeah, no, it's just a thing that you could do if you're going to use this type of home automation, which we certainly had no intention to do. So I was like, well, I want this to be an outlet. It's going to be in our master closet. There's we have a little towel warmer we got for Christmas and we thought it would be stupid. But then especially Katie really likes it. And I'm guiltily kind of like it too. And so we wanted to be able to plug it in without having it like a stupid extension cord from our bedroom to the thing. Anyways, this is a long wind up. So I go and shut off. I'm a stranger to doing electrical stuff. I finished all the electrical in our basement. Definitely super legal and on the up and up. And then, so like it was not foreign to me to do such things.
Yeah. Well, you can always tell what it is when somebody says so. Anyways, continue.
Right, yeah, of course. And and then so I went downstairs, I turned off the breaker to our bathroom, and I went upstairs, and I have my like little magical thingamajig that tells me if there's electricity there or not, and it said there was no electricity, and then I went to take everything apart, And one thing I've learned from my dad in doing construction of any sort, especially with electricity, is unless you absolutely have to, pretend that it's still hot, even if it's not. And so I was still playing pretty careful around the wires. No reason to touch things I don't have to touch.
Right.
So I had taken apart, I had taken off the old piece of junk thing that I wanted to replace, and I was going to screw in just a regular outlet. And I put in one part of the live wire and was about to put in the other. And I accidentally had the ground wire touch the live wire, which was touching my pinky, and I shocked the poop out of myself. So, Nick, I shocked myself. I don't recommend it. The voltage that comes through outlets is...
Okay, this sounds very painful. Is it a lot? Is the voltage that comes through outlets a lot?
Yeah, it could be deadly. Thankfully, I just grazed it and was being very careful. Because the worst thing you could do is shock yourself in a situation where you're because the natural reaction is that your hand clamps down and your hand can clamp onto the live item, and that's very bad. But anyways, it was very unpleasant, which caused me to be, first off, very awake. I'm a big coffee guy. There's nothing that will awake you more than touching a live house wire. So if you ever feel the need to really quit, some people talk about cold showers and stuff like that.
But if you want a slightly more deadly option, right?
But very effective. So I was very awake.
There's trade-offs with everything, right? There's a risk with everything.
Sure,
do, right?
Exactly. We could all die from a caffeine overdose. It's extremely likely. Nobody's done it, but you never know. But one of the things I wanted to understand was the little electricity sensor thing. Why did it not tell me that there was electricity here? Because I definitely was careful about that.
That's good.
And I had tested it before I tested the breaker, and it showed me electricity was there. So then when I came back, the electricity was not there according to it, and so I thought it was fine. It had chosen that time to have its batteries die, so I replaced the batteries, and then it definitely knew that there was electricity there. So that's sometimes you hear the old adage that 2 is 1 and 1 is none. I have now that new application of that is especially applicable when it comes to sensing whether or not electricity is there.
Is my brain just small? What does that phrase mean? 2 is 1 and 1 is none.
It means if you don't have 2 of something, you actually have none of something. Because if you only have 1 of something, it could go away at any point. It's like toilet paper. Yes. If you have 1 roll of toilet paper, you have no rolls of toilet paper because that thing could roll. That could run out at any point, and then you're out of luck. And that
makes perfect sense.
In this case, I only had 1 electricity sensor thingamajig, and I used it, and it didn't show electricity. But what I should have done was have 2 and then both test them and see that they both did that. But of course, they both could run out of battery or whatever. Anyways, that's not interesting. I shocked myself with electricity. A new entrant.
Hold on.
Okay.
I just want to know how in the world you thought I was going to guess that.
I didn't, Nick. Nick, that's the whole reason why it doesn't work.
Good job.
But we haven't podcasted in 100 years.
And you're like, oh man, I was out there hurting myself, chopping onions again like I did the last 6 times. I'd be like, okay, well, you know what? I probably should have caught on to the pattern. But Jeffrey he asked me to guess. It's like an elaborate story about how the thing you used, the meter that you used to measure whether something has electricity or not.
I just thought we were close enough, maybe there was a chance.
Figure it out.
I was giving those vibes out to the universe, and maybe you'd be picking them up, but apparently not.
Really
that's
do apologize for that.
That's fine. I won't hold it against you.
My psychic connection's pretty weak today. I apologize on that one, Jeff.
I'm a real big psychic guy. So that, it is hurtful, but I'll move past it. It's been a long time since we podcasted, so gotta move forward.
I should just start asking you to guess the names of the person that I ran into. Jeff, guess the name of the neighbor that I talked to earlier on the way in.
The rude guy.
Oh, the nice one.
Oh, the nice one. Nice one's James. Yeah.
There's no James around here. What the hell are you talking about, dude? What's wrong with you? Why didn't you pick up the vibes I was sending into the universe?
No, hold on. Charles?
Nope.
You're sure it wasn't James? Are you sure it wasn't James? I'm getting real big James vibes.
I'm sure, but let's move on. Move on.
Okay, this is dumb. Nick, the next thing I want to talk about is the Mario movie.
Okay, the Mario movie.
Do you have any interest or intention to watch this Mario movie?
My nephew is 5, and he's like just all of a sudden, I think his friends are interested in Mario, and so he is like all about it, and he was telling me all about it today, actually, when I saw him for the first time in forever. So here's what I learned from he's not 5, he's 4 and change. My 4-year-old nephew about the Mario movie, and therefore, which has all made me very excited for it. One, does Bowser go rawr? No. Bowser breathes fire. He doesn't go rawr. And that's Luigi. He's a supervillain. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, I'm big on that because I'm glad that they're willing to play in the space and that they're willing to experiment with the world, because I think it's cool that they've decided to make Luigi a supervillain according to Jackson, and I think it's cool that, like, you know, they're not just sticking to the tired old script of like, oh, he kidnaps Peach and then Mario and Luigi gotta do stuff, and Mario is a good guy, and Luigi's the scaredy good guy. Like, switch it up. Luigi can be a supervillain. Why not?
Yeah, it definitely doesn't follow the trope that you described, and Luigi is definitely a supervillain. Definitely,
that's what I'm saying.
Definitely head nod wink.
Jackson has no reason to lie to me. Is all I know.
That's true, and certainly couldn't be persuaded of any untruths at any point about this.
Yes.
So here's the reason.
Are you calling him a liar?
Nick, if anything, I called him a person who had opinions that would be interesting.
I'm sorry. Continue. I've derailed this too much with an offhand comment.
So here's one thing I will say. First off, actually, what's the right order to tell how I feel about the movie itself, or how I feel about how it all led up to, and then.
So you saw it with your son today. With your son?
So whole family went today.
Hey,
so Alice, Ava, and Katie and I, we all went to go watch the Mario movie today. So this is fresh. I guess I'll give some background. The timing of this movie, I do not think there will ever be a time in my son's life that he is more excited about Mario.
That's so cool.
Than right now.
And I know he's kind of a Mario guy, right? You guys play the Mario, whatever the hell it's called, together?
We've been playing Mario 3D World off and on for the past like 3 months, I would say.
Okay.
And also,
I thought you played it a lot longer than that. You used to play it?
That might have been one where we like started playing and then like really dropped off because it was like too hard for just where he was at.
Yeah, totally. I was gonna say how impressive that is that he was playing that at like 3 or whatever.
Well,
or 5 or 4.
Yeah, 5. So I think we might have started that like we might have had like a little false start when he was 5, like just getting through the first like level is a whole different thing than getting through all 12 or whatever it is.
Gotcha.
But anyhow, like he's definitely capable of playing it now, and I would say like 80% of it he's done all by himself, and then like I'll come in and play
nice.
like when he gets to hard parts or whatever, and we'll like tag team it. Which Mario 3D World is great because I can just hop in and out, and like it has no impact on anything. He can it's very seamless, and like right there then and there I'll just like pause and say I never appreciated the flexibility that games that kids can play, like well done design is like 100 out of 100 appreciation for that. Like the fact that my son can play a video game, and if I want to, I can just hop in. Literally, there's no loading screen or anything. I literally just hit L and R on the controller, and then I pick my character, and I'm there with him. There's nothing that needs to be done, and then when I'm done, I don't have to do anything to leave. Like, that is chef's kiss on playing a video game with a kid.
For sure.
So much appreciated. But anyhow, my son has been way into Mario because we're getting really, really close to beating that game. And that's just the sort of personality he has. Like he really gets into certain things in waves, and then it ebbs and flows. I think probably lots of kids are that way. So this is, like I said, this is the perfect timing because he's way into it. And when we told him and Alice this morning that today was the day that we were going to go watch the Mario movie, literally, I mean, it's like second Christmas for them. Like they both had just absolute excitement going into everything, which as a parent is the most adorable thing ever.
Yes.
So
I can only imagine
going into the movie itself. I'm beyond excited. It's super fun to be able, and also like Mario was definitely a thing that I've spent a lot of time playing also. So like,
It's not like I mean it's the same. It's not gonna be built for you by any means, but like if you, especially if you've been playing it a lot with your kid, like you can get appreciation out of the jokes and the environment and seeing it in that format, right? Like it's cool.
Yeah. So go into the movie. Just I'm more honestly, it's one of those situations where I'm more excited for my son to watch it than I am for myself to watch it by like like a order of magnitude difference. But so we go in and we're excited, and I even downloaded the stupid Run P app or whatever it's called, where you can find out when the right times to go to the bathroom are, because Lord knows my kid's gonna have to go to the bathroom, so don't want to miss any of the important or fun parts. And we get sat down, get our popcorn and whatnot, and are starting the movie. And here's what I'll say about the movie. Overall, there's like there's like a maybe 30 or 40 minutes point at the beginning that, like, man, that's a slow build. Like it's a really it's really taken a while to get going. But then, Nick, the amount of fan service to my son that this movie did was genuinely like I was almost emotional with how excited he was about it. Like, not to be too spoilery, but a big part of the movie, or sorry, a big part of the game we're playing right now, Mario 3D World, which I didn't even realize came out like 10 years ago. It's crazy. A big part of that is there's like a little, Mario, he has his little power-ups where he can get like the fire power one, or he can get like the little raccoon thing. But the thing in that game is he can be a cat. So like, and that's a huge through line throughout the entire game, is like the cat mode is like the most powerful thing. And there's a part of the movie where Mario gets the cat suit, and like I looked over at my son, and the pure happiness, like it was
That's so sweet.
It was the most adorable thing. And then so like that was definitely like just a me and Avon thing. But then there's another part later on where there's like a Mario Kart fan service thing, which that is a thing that all four of us have done as a family, like played some Mario Kart together.
Awesome.
And they're like building their carts, and it's like there are so many like exact lifts from the actual most recent Mario Kart game, like with how you like pick your cart and pick the little parachute thing. And again, like that was fun too, because Alice was she was aware of the fact that was like, oh my gosh, this is how we play Mario Kart. Like, oh my goodness gracious, it was so fun. And also that part of the part of the movie that I mentioned with the cat costume part, like that point on. That is a genuinely entertaining movie. You do have to get through the first like 40 minutes, and the storyline is nothing. But if you've ever played any Mario game ever, like it is super fun.
That's the thing. So I think like proper kids movies are never really gonna make like I don't know, like a kid's attention span, a kid's desires, like the way that the like you do everything. It's not really, you can't really do like a perfect like, oh, it appeals to 5-year-olds and it appeals to adults, right? But like whatever, if you just go in with the expectation of like, I'm here with a kid and they're having a great time and I'm gonna enjoy like seeing this thing animated, like you can have good animation, right?
Yeah.
Like you can have good like, oh, this is the thing that I grew up playing and like know in my heart, and like have a meaningful not like connection, but like a meaningful understanding of like, yeah, dude, that's awesome. It's super cool.
And I will say, in the same spirit of things, the original Lego movie came out in 2014. So like just like basically 9 years ago. I think that one is a kids movie that like is shockingly hilarious.
So is it a kids movie? I like saw it with my friends or I think my coworkers. I don't really remember. I saw it with people that were adults, and I was in my mid-20s at the time. So like I kind of just like, yeah, there's like silly jokes. Do you feel like the Lego movie appealed to like Avern and them?
I mean, we watched it as a family. We had like a little theater day where we like rearranged our basement furniture to like be in the shape of a theater, and we watched Lego movie, and they loved it. And I loved it. And so like I think
awesome. Okay.
I think there are like certain ways that you can really make it work. But that's really hard to do. Like, there's not a lot of examples of that that really knock that out of the park. And I will say, I consider this movie 50% good and 50% mediocre at best, but it knocks it out of the park for kids' entertainment.
Hell yeah.
Like, if I was my son, like the most adorable thing about it all, like, first off, I cannot understate like how adorable it is to look over at your kid and see him be just like in shock at like how excited he is about the thing that's happening, because it's the thing that like he's familiar with or whatever. Like, it's so cute and like so
cool.
fun. Like, it definitely made every little bit of the initial half hour like. And honestly, like, he had a blast during that half hour. Like, don't get me wrong, but like it was. There's lots of people online with lots of opinions on such. Like, it's objectively it's not a great first half of a movie. And,
totally.
And I would say, like, objectively, it's a pretty fun back half of a movie. It's not like, overly complex plot or anything, but it's entertaining and fun and funny. So like, it's enjoyable there. But like, it's a Mario movie. It's meant to be, a little bit of fan service, a little bit for kids, somewhere in between, and it hits its stride eventually. But it's not, it's not a masterpiece, but genuinely fun. And afterwards, having your kids say, well, he was like, that was the funnest movie I've ever watched. And that's just so...
Aw, it's fantastic.
And he's like, Dad, how long until we can watch it at our house? I'm like, I don't know. I think it's on Peacock eventually. So we'll watch it sometime, like the next couple months. But he immediately wanted to just watch it again. And it was just super cute. And
that's awesome.
Had a blast. So anyways, people that make video games accessible for kids, 10 out of 10, thank you. And the movie equivalent of that they turn those things into adaptations that are just a huge highlight of our the summer that's not even summer yet. We're just getting warm here in Kansas, but like, just to be able to have that little walking into the theater and it's not negative 40 degrees like it has been lately, and it's actually warm. And just having that experience was just so cool. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, Mario movie.
10.
2 thumbs up. Not the best movie in the world, but definitely the super fun.
That's awesome. That's what matters.
All right, Nick. The actual thing I want to talk to you about today.
Yes.
So first off, are you? Man, I don't know how much I want to go into this first part. We're gonna see where we land. But are you aware of the crew announcement for Artemis II, the Artemis II mission?
No,
okay.
I am not.
So the Artemis, you're gonna want to pull up Discord because I'm gonna send you a picture.
Okay.
And so this is the things that are fun and interesting to us. I'm gonna look over the precipice of things that I think are despicable, and it is people's reaction to this at first in broader media. Okay, there we go. All right, so Nick, this is the Artemis II crew. The Artemis II mission itself is going to be not the moon landing, but a moon fly very, 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 very close to. They're going to fly around the moon and come back. And prep for Artemis 3, which will be the next actual humans on moon mission. Again, using my podcast trope of asking you, what do you think the internet and media had to say about this picture of the announcement of these astronauts?
I am aware a little bit more of the internet than I am of like what you've done just like at home. But hey Jeff, I see a black man and I see a woman there, and I think that's just unacceptable, is what I think.
Yeah. So here's the thing that I would like to. I don't feel the need to get on my soapbox often, but this is my soapbox and I want to get on it. None of us have any idea who any of these people are. Okay. And the fact that many people...
Are you not an expert on the qualifications of being an astronaut for moon landing missions or moon probing missions? Are you not an expert on that, Jeff?
So here's all I will say on the topic.
Yeah.
Look, none of us know who any of these people are. The fact that so much of the internet made an extreme point to say that the only reason why two of these people are on this mission are for diversity purposes. I think you need to find a place where you can go that is not connected to the internet for a very long time and find some other way to spend your time. Because
I think you need to find Jesus. Is what you think you need to find.
It's Easter Sunday this week. There's no better time. I legitimately think that there's no grosser thing than to say that these extremely talented individuals only got to go on this mission because of it was a diversity quota. And you know what, Nick? Let's play devil's advocate here. Let's say that it was like absolute worst case scenario. Is it really the worst thing in the world that we tell women
Actually, yes.
and people of color that they can too do things like go to Mars or go to the moon? And
No, actually, for sure, yes, Jeff. Like for sure, it's like actually like eroding the society or something. That's what's happening. It's like we've just destroyed our society because a single mission will be manned by only 2 white men.
Well, how will we handle it if there's only
50%.
half the crew is white dudes? How will we handle
Correct.
it?
Yeah.
Look, I obviously I don't work at NASA's crew selection committee. I don't know all the actual details that have gone into this, but like, come on, internet. Like, these people are incredibly qualified. So much of this is going to come down to incredibly nuanced, like, who's the best person to go on a mission is like the tiny, you have the best of the best of the best of the best to choose from. You're splitting hairs at a certain point. All 4 of these people are incredibly qualified individuals. We're not anyway. I found that just disappointing. I'm very disappointed in you, internet. Like, we're better than this. Come on. This isn't like a thing where we were predicting a particular set of people to go and then we were shocked when it was somebody else. Like, this is, again, none of us knew who any of these people were. We should just be happy for them to be able to go circle the moon. Stop being so stupid. There's so many other things to care about. Anyways, my rare soapbox at which I get on and say get better people. Anyways, I'm going to talk about Margaret Hamilton, the engineer, not the actress. Do you know anything about Margaret Hamilton before I get into this? There's a very good chance you've seen this picture before, which I'm going to try to post in chat.
I have.
So, for our listeners, the picture that I've sent Nick is a picture of a woman, and she is next to a going by averages here, let's say a 5'6" pile of paper, which is just the stack of all of the code that she wrote for NASA. Code.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Specifically for the Apollo 11 mission, it's all printed out, and that's how big it is when it's printed on paper and stacked up. So she did a lot, and I want to talk about a little bit. Hold on just a second here. So Margaret Hamilton, first off, it's as a person who has written lots of code in their life, the fact that you can write enough code that it is as tall as you are,
that's a lot of
printed
code.
off. That's a lot of code. And she didn't like write all of that. Like, she was just over the team that did a lot of that. But still, nonetheless, that is extremely an impressive amount.
It's a lot of code.
Yeah, it's a lot. So she was the leading software team for Apollo 11, which is baffling to think that back in the 60s, as a woman being in charge of the team that wrote all that. She was the director of software engineering division at MIT, and that's where she did all this work, more or less. And the thing that was most interesting about her is she was very passionate about like writing code for redundancy, or for like when something doesn't go wrong, automatedly being able to handle whatever the exception was. Which, you know, as you might imagine, when you are trying to fly something to the moon in the 60s, being able to have things handle stuff themselves, as opposed to getting instruction from humans or from somebody who's, you know, a couple light minutes away, or light seconds away, back in Houston, you know, that's a very beneficial thing. So that was kind of our focus. We'll dive into exactly how that came to fruition and why it really mattered as much as it did. But a couple other things about her. Have you ever heard of the term software engineering, Nick?
No.
No,
No,
never.
that's a new one.
Not a
That's
single
a new
time.
one.
So she was obviously we're joking. She was the one who coined software engineering, and like the idea behind that was she wanted to like lend credence to the fact that though it may not be physically what's happening to these rockets, it is engineering nonetheless. It requires a rigorous process of design. It requires testing, and even though it might not be, you know, in a wind tunnel or whatever, it still requires that same level of process.
Yes.
So like really lent a huge amount of credence to software engineering in the 60s, and then later on, so as unfortunately with a lot of these things, a lot of the people like her that were kind of an underrepresented group in something like NASA, being a woman software engineer, she wasn't really recognized at the time to the extent that she ought to have been. She did win the Presidential Medal of Freedom in early 2016, which is the, you know, depending on, you know, details a little bit, but like that's like the highest civilian honor for people in the U.S. And that was for her work on the Apollo program, again specifically
Pretty freaking cool.
in Apollo 11. But first off, I love the fact that we have role models like this for other young women going into fields like this. But the fact that she did it when she did it, and the extent to which it really mattered to both, you know, just the whole field of space flight, the United States broadly, and women everywhere. Like, it's just so cool. So like if she had not had her fingerprints on this, it's hard to say how things would have played out. So in the Apollo 11 moon landing, there was an issue with the radar system, which is really important for finding a safe place to land on the moon's surface. And her, I guess, kind of like to.
I was going to say very, very important. I just didn't want to interrupt your flow, but yeah. That sounds very, very critical. Everything seems pretty critical when people are real, real far away trying to get on. Yeah.
And I've gotten myself enough through my notes that I don't have to even look at my notes to tell this story, because now it just gets to the cool part. So how computers worked back then is you asked a processor, like, hey, I need you to do this calculation. And the processor would do that in the order in which it receives those requests. And that's just how it was. Nowadays, like right now, if you have a Windows PC and you open Task Manager, you can actually like right click on a process and like say like make it high priority or whatever, and that will give it priority on like CPU usage, RAM usage, whatever. That whole concept did not exist prior to her. And what her whole idea is that if there's ever an instance where we have too much coming to the process, because then especially the processing power is extremely limited, and so like her whole advocacy was that we should come up with a priority system so that if there's an unexpected issue and there's only so much processing power to be happening, that there is a priority, an order in line, so that if there's like a small error, that it does not cause other things to not happen or to slow down to the extent that
this is foundational, man.
It's it's incredibly foundational when you're trying to land something on the moon remotely. So like that. But it's also foundational to computer science in general.
That's what I was saying. Is like, I mean, I'm not like the greatest developer or anything of the sort, but like prioritizing tasks is critical. It's like, to say that it's critical is like the understatement of understatements. You know what I mean? Like, that's ridiculous, man. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So what happened in Apollo 11 was they had the radar issue, which put their processor over limit, and because of the prioritization that her and her team had coded into those giant stacks of paper that you can see in that picture, the processor only like how they coded the processor to respond in order was based on the priority that they set in the actual requests. And because of that, the all minor things took a back seat to figuring out all of the all the important things to land a spacecraft. And because of that, they landed without an issue. If that hadn't been the case, there are like a couple people have gone back and like done some forensics on this, and the processor was over requested by something in the means of around 15, give or take 5%, which you think that sounds like maybe a small number, I suppose, if you're not familiar, but like if you're talking
again, 15%, give or take 5%, correct?
Yeah. So like somewhere in the 10 to 20% range. But if you're saying like, how long do I need to get the feedback from my request to process how far we are from crashing into the moon, for example, the extra 2 minutes or whatever would be quite bad. So
somewhat important.
Some say. Anyhow, you can really dive deep into just all the impact that she had on that mission specifically, but also NASA missions following, and then just the whole field of computer science after the fact when she moved on to other things. Just an overall fantastically talented person doing a fantastically complicated job in a time where it was not acceptable to have a female leading an engineering team for people landing on the moon, but yet she did it. And I think that is awesome and definitely deserving of as much attention as she can get, because it's just so cool. And the idea that had she not been so adamant, because there was actually a time where she got blown off on some of her prioritization, like backup stuff, and they did not have that in some of the earlier missions, and that causes there were a few things that went wrong, and because of that, that's what allowed her to make her code allowed to be part of the Apollo 11 mission. Had all those things not happen, like it's wild to think of how history could be different. And
yeah, for sure,
I don't know. Very cool. And again, not to get too into the weeds on the negativity of the internet, but that's why we should be super excited about people, having a woman be able to, Christina Koch, the person who's the woman going on the Artemis II mission, being super excited about that, because that sets a whole industry, a whole field on a different trajectory for a whole subsect of people, and that's amazing. And what's his name? Victor Glover is the African-American guy who's going to be flying around the moon, which again is that's a whole group of people that are going to be on a different trajectory because of him, blazing that path forward, which I think is just something to be incredibly celebrated, just as it is to celebrate Margaret Hamilton back in the day. Anyways. No, that's my through line to that whole story. But
I think you're completely correct to draw that through line. I think your analysis is completely correct. And dude, I don't know. That's freaking amazing. I think like when we think of these kinds of like really large scale projects, it's really daunting to me to think of this as like that code printed out, and to think about like your operating system does all that stuff for you now. You know what I mean? Like, that's just like, it doesn't matter if your operating system is freaking Android. You know what I mean? Like, that Android prioritizes tasks. And to think that, like, someone had to make that first step, like, I don't know. It's wildly impressive, and it's wildly impressive whether, like, that's personally her innovation, or it's just, like, she had the high-level, like, conceptualization of that, or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Like, the team doing that and her contribution to it, whatever, like, like, whatever percentage of it is her contribution, it's super important to us long term in our ability to do simple things and awesome things that we do with computers. And I don't think people like really understand the amount of legwork that goes into that. Like most people, Like I feel like once you've taken your first computer science course, you're like, oh, okay, like coding's not like as daunting as movies make it look, where a hacker is sitting there typing 300 words a minute,
Right.
Like into a command console, and like sure, there's people typing into command consoles, but you know what I mean. Most of us can, but like most people do not know how to write any code. Like that's an absurd amount of legwork, even outside of like the innovative part of it, right? Like I mean, it's both innovative and an absurd amount of legwork for accomplishments that like ring through to today, man. Like and good for Apollo 2, and I'm freaking stoked to see what comes of it, because I think you've illustrated in this podcast many a time that like we get a lot of scientific breakthrough because of space travel, and like that's a perfect example. I didn't want to interrupt your flow. I'm sorry that I'm like kind of backtracking here off of the point about the Apollo 2 crew, but like that is a perfect example. If she's like the first, and this is the first like real world application of like really prioritizing tasks and like allocating CPU usage, whether it's like threads or what, I don't really know if that would be like what it would be back then or not, but like that's so foundational to how like without that kind of innovation, we're nowhere close to the level of performance and technology that we have today.
Yeah, and to be concrete about it, because I did dive into this quite a bit, she specifically was the one who had that as a concept and was the person who did that first. Like, she is the inventor of prioritization for CPU usage.
That's I mean, that sentence right there is absurd.
Which is buck wild, because that is how computers work now.
like Windows and Mac can't do that. Do you know what I mean? Like Windows and Mac can't do that. Like wouldn't exist.
They can't
without
not
the ability
do
to
that.
do that. Right. They if they couldn't do that, none of us would use Windows or Mac. You know what I mean? Like it would just be it'd be like Mac OS. I keep saying Mac. I don't know what I'm saying. Mac, the product, as opposed to Windows, the operating system. Sure. Nick Brain good, but you know my point.
Yeah, point taken. One thing I will say, which is kind of a funny point, because he's one of the most interesting people on the planet, but there will be, so the actual group that lands on the moon, it hasn't been announced yet for Artemis 3, but there is strong rumors that we will have our first non-white gentleman on the moon in Artemis 3, and it is Johnny Kim. Does that name ring a bell at all? Because
I want to say yes, but I don't think so.
So he is a South Korean U.S. resident that he started his career as an adult in the he was a Navy SEAL, and then he became a doctor, and now he's a NASA astronaut, and like he is 6 years older than me, so I might be able to try to catch him. But it seems a little challenging at this point. But like he is, like there will be no internet crap about him not being qualified to go on this mission.
Do you want to know what I don't love about that one right there? Is that like he set the bar too high for every single other human being. Like just like on the list, like the resume list. You know what I'm saying? Like because like you might be like, oh, but I'm a CEO. Oh, I innovated the field. I mean, cool, but like you did it one time. You know what I'm saying? Like he's just like swapping up things. He's like, okay, so this is physically daunting, and after that, what do I do after the incredibly physically daunting and terrifying, and I'm doing a terrible job of giving justice to
I think what's amazing about it, which he could probably justify a whole podcast about himself, but like none of those are things like being a CEO, which not to be like a Debbie Downer on CEOs, but at the end of the day, like that's kind of position, and like it's not actually a ton of work depending on what you're doing. Like, but to be a Navy SEAL, that's incredibly taxing physically and mentally. To be a physician, that's incredibly taxing physically and mentally. To be a NASA astronaut is incredibly taxing mentally and physically. Like there's none of those options where it's like, you could really phone that one in. Whereas
right. Right.
You can
I was kind
definitely
of gonna
vote
say
in
like
as
he
the CEO.
decided to like a really physical, incredibly daunting, terrifying, life-threatening career. Then he did a one that like is incredibly it requires an incredible amount of education and hard work just to get the
Yeah.
skills for it. And then he's like, what if I did both of those together?
Yeah.
what a jerk.
Put it in space.
But in space.
Anyways, yeah, he's he's literally like, he has to be in like the top 0.0000001% as far as achievement from a single individual. But like it's also one of those things like sometimes you see like the 30 under 30 lists or 40 under 40 or whatever, and like him being 30 whatever years old, like I'm not sure what Forbes is doing, but if they don't select him as the number one 40 under 40 person, I don't know what else we're all doing here. We're over here freaking playing marbles while he's playing chess or whatever. I love it. But anyways, yeah, that's good. I mean, and Nick, when it comes time next year for us to have a person on the moon, I don't know that there's anything else we're going to be able to talk about for probably the 3 months prior and 3 months after. Like,
if this just becomes a
lose
moon
my
podcast,
mind.
I'm totally here for it. Honestly,
I mean, there's not going to be anything else I care about. Like you can talk about NBA stuff all you want. It's just I don't care.
That's in the side podcast. I'll be like, Jeff, can I have a turn to talk yet? You'll be like, no, I'm still talking about. Oh my god.
Speaking of the side podcast, if you would like, on the off weeks that we don't do this podcast or the off quarters that we don't do this podcast, there's sometimes a Patreon only podcast that happens. You can check that out, patreon.com/TimeWithSap. It's a good time. It's like this, except for not, but more sports and stuff typically, or whatever. But yeah, TimeWithSap.com/ nope, patreon.com/TimeWithSap.
And right here on the thing, I haven't done this in a while. You can also follow us at TimeWithSap on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, but not Snapchat. And you can find all of that at TimeWithSap.com.
Well, Nick, it's been a while, but thank you.
Has.
Thank you so much for On These Strange Tides potting with me. It's been a good run today, and I've enjoyed it very much. We should do it more often.
Me too, sir.
Probably more than once every 100 years or whatever it's been.
Actually, probably not more than every 100 years. I think every 100 years is about right.
Yeah, fair.
No, thank you, sir. You're welcome. This has been the year we started a podcast. Thank you all for listening.